Jake Landry, head coach of the running backs for Iowa State, not head coach of the entire team, but I guess you could say he's the head coach of the running backs. You're here with Locked On Cyclones, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Met with the media last week. I was on KXNO chatting it up with Miller and Condon. They brought this to my attention. Of course, I was going to do my due diligence, but we had Farmageddon Friday coming up, and they were like, "Hey, have you seen this?" And I was like, I'm on my lunch break, so no, but later I will. So I went and watched it, and this is awesome. I'm just gonna call it how it is. I mean, just plain and simple. First off, we got a guy, Jake Landry. The way this guy speaks and the way this guy conveys his points is awesome. Like, what's the best word for this? The one thing I took away from this was, yes, there was a lot of coach speak. I think Jake Landry, and no hate to Jake Landry at all, talks the most similar to a person who is trying to to portray a coach, if that makes sense. Have you ever seen those comedy videos where they're acting as if they're a coach at a press conference? That's exactly how Jake Landry talks. Literally word for word. Some of his responses, I was like, that sounds like it was like made up as a joke for how coaches speak. So yes, there is a lot of that in there, but Jake Landry had a quote answering, I believe it was about Abu Sama, saying that now the vibe, like everyone understands, the meeting room is just as important as practice. When he not only this line, but this whole answer, when he laid this out, I really started to realize just how much better Iowa State might be this season, and as long really as Jake Landry is here, but even after. So basically forever. Could this be one of the most important hires in Iowa State history? Very much possible. Why though? Why? It sounds like Jake Landry is raising the bar of not only the running backs, but the entire program. But obviously starting kind of with the running backs. When talking about how important, practice is and the meeting rooms, it sounds like it's like you're just constantly on, which is, I felt like maybe how it always should have been. I will admit, in high school, we didn't really have meetings or meeting rooms. We more had like a film study once a week. We had a weight room. We had a practice field. We had a game field. We had a locker room. I think we had an equipment room. Like, we didn't really have meeting rooms, so it's hard to really tell what the vibe of a meeting room would be. We had an area on the practice field where like the wide receivers practiced. Is that the meeting room? I don't really know what this means. But to get an idea of what this, like, to put your headspace there and kind of imagine what it would be like, I could see how this can get out of control really, really quickly, and how you would have to kind of grab the room and be like, this is what we're doing. Point blank period. This is the facts. We're not getting away from this. And it sounds like Jake Landry has completely taken this room of the running backs and been like, and this is just completely my interpretation, but basically told them, like, we are going to be the reason that this team wins games. So buckle in. That's kind of the thing I took away from his press conference. There was no messing around. Like, there was just straight-faced, this is cut and dry. Like, I don't know. I love the way that Jake Landry ran his ship. And so looking at a few of the players that were laid out, obviously Hansen and Sama are the two that everyone is thinking about. Who is going to get the lion's share of the carries? Is there like situation? Is there a third down back? Is there an every down back? Like, what exactly is going on with those two? But also Aiden Flora and Ryver Peppers, Dylan Lee, a couple of other guys that are getting some attention from the guys in Ames asking these questions. From my understanding of what Jake Landry threw out and my interpretation of basically what was coach speak, we're in a really good spot in the running back room. We really just are. It sounds like there has been an increase in true due diligence, true care, true love for the game that these running backs have this season. The way he is putting it now, of course, this is his first year with the program, so maybe that's why. But the way he's putting it is, it's like they really turned it up to 11, But why not just make it 10? Because it goes to 11. Like they have turned it to the next level here. And so how does that look? Well, you've got Abu Sama staying, and working with Coach Landry on all of the fundamentals, all of the everything's the ins, the outs, the inner workings of the offense. And that was really something he kind of repeated over and over. Jake Landry did, Coach Landry, about all these guys, is that they really worked on learning what the whole offense is doing. This is something that I think tight ends probably learn more than, other than quarterbacks, more than anybody else. You're going to see it a little bit with wide receivers. You're going to see it a little bit with the offensive line to some extent, but it's really kind of like the tight ends and the wide receivers, I think, are the first two that comes to mind here. When you think of when you're back in the day playing football, what's the first thing you learn? What you're doing. Okay. If it's bootleg week, do I have a comeback or do I have a slant or do I have a post? Or if you're the running back, am I blocking left? Am I blocking right? Am I taking a fake handoff here? Am I actually getting the ball? Like, what is going to happen on this play? What do I need to do? Then you take it to the next level and you need to know what is going on the play everywhere else so you can better understand the motives of the other 10 players on the field and you could do your part to help them achieve their goal. Thus, the team succeeds, right? That is kind of what happens in the progression of a mental side of a football player. So a wide receiver who knows, well, I've got a post on this route. Or maybe let's say I've got a fade on this route. It's more of a clear out route than anything. They understand that's where they're supposed to go. They, however, see a massive hole in the middle of the field mid route. If they knew what everyone else was doing, they wouldn't go to the middle of the field because they know what their route is doing to try to help the team win. And let's say in this case, it's a clear out route. It's not really there to, I mean, if it gets open, it gets open, but no one's really looking at it anyway. There's probably some sort of an out or a flat or whatever beneath them. But there's also a guy coming across in the post. So if he runs a post, now you've got two guys in the dead center of the field, either going to run into each other or that can easily be covered by one safety. You don't want that. You don't want that. And so that's what we're seeing out of these running backs is they're learning what everyone is doing on the field. What does that mean? Who's the unblocked cat? Who's the guy who's left? Where is the hole supposed to be? And where could it be because of what everyone else is trying to accomplish? What does the formation look like? What does the defense set up in response to that offensive formation look like? What does that likely mean? What does that defensive setup mean for the offensive? Like it's layers. Okay, we're going Shrek mode here. You can think onions, you can think yogurt parfaits, because who doesn't love a good yogurt parfait, right? I don't know why that word came out of my mouth so odd, because trust me, I love parfaits. That was a weird situation. Point is, this running back room really might have it. And I got on a bunch of different tangents here, so I didn't really get to nail in all these big points. But like Aiden Flora has provided huge value on special teams, so I think it's really being stressed in running back room this year. Carson Hansen, one of his greatest qualities, noted by Coach Landry, is that he's really good at getting downhill, getting vertical. How do you get yards? By getting vertical. If you're going side to side, you're not technically gaining yards for the team. Consistency is one of the biggest things for Abu Sama. And then, as I said, he's taking time to learn with Coach Landry. Dylan Lee has some power. From the sounds of it, the guy can move weight in the squat rack. So really excited about that. Obviously, young guy there. Could be a bit of the future. Sounds like Carson Hansen, and I'll close you out with this, is the key, right? So Jake Landry can be this guy, and he's unproven, and maybe all of this doesn't really mean anything if the team doesn't really wins and kind of becomes a bit of a problem. Same thing can be said of like, if the room doesn't buy in, then it's not good. And it sounds like Carson Hansen is absolutely bought in. Everything he's doing is on championship level. He's elevated the room as a whole. Everyone is bought in right now. That is the most important takeaway from this, is that it seems like the running backs kind of want to be the reason Iowa State wins. I would say more than anything. If not, then just to not be the reason they win. Or to be the reason they lose. I don't know what the best way to say that would be. Sounds like Iowa State running backs are here to bring the boom. Let's leave it at that. I am so pumped up for this team. I am so pumped for everything that they have. I'm counting it. We're so close. We are so genuinely close to Dublin, Ireland, and Iowa State and Kansas State kicking things off literally to the college football season. If you haven't already, be sure to hit subscribe down below. It's completely free. We're so close to 1,000. Let's try to hit that before the game, before this Dublin game. That'd be so cool. That would be so cool. That being said, until next time, Cyclone fans, stay safe out there and sayonara.